Yeah, I would have also really liked the idea of using that so that you could have other kinds of were-animals, so that, like, I could just turn a badger into a were-badger. Because, let's face it, a badger seems like a horrible idea to make into a were-creature, and I love it. It remains spoopy time.
Spoopy's very...
Spooky. No. Yeah, this is Halloween. This is Halloween. So, since this is Halloween, I thought that we would talk about another spoopy or not spoopy. And on this episode, I thought we would talk about ghosts. And I'm not talking about that movie with the pottery.
Why not?
Maybe we should.
Is that too sexy for this?
It's too sexy and you know it. Anyway, LMFAO references aside, so ghosts. Alex, have you encountered ghosts in games before?
Like tabletop, not as often.
Yeah.
But in video games, yeah.
The thing about ghosts that I think always trips me up is, depending on the rule set, you are going to have either a corporeal or an incorporeal ghost. I've seen plenty of examples where they are literally not tangible, so anything that you try to do in a physical space will not, hit them. So you have to start thinking outside the box for ghosts. The thing that really annoys me, though, is I remember several encounters with ghosts where, and I think this is the scariest part about them, where they are basically invisible, unseen creatures that are trying to threaten you. The best example that I have is when you go to the abandoned hotel in Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. When you go to I want to say it's the Oceanside, you go there, and there's no real enemies there, but there is a ghost that haunts this place. And so as you're going through this hotel, doors will suddenly open up, and little trains will, start choo-chooing through the doors just randomly, and you'll look in, and the door will, slam shut before you can see inside of it. And this is kind of the entire level of just, lights randomly going out or books being thrown at your head or something from the shadows. And there is no enemy to fight. There's no actual tangible enemy for you to deal with. And I think that that's the scariest part about ghosts, is the idea that you are unable to fight them in any meaningful way.
You gotta get your, what's it called? I don't remember. Whatever Luigi's got.
You gotta get that vacuum?
Yeah.
You gotta get that vacuum. I don't remember
its name. If my son were home right now, I would ask him.
Yes. It's the Vac Pack 20 from Luigi's Mansion. Yeah, I can't remember what it's called because
Geister, something like that.
Yes. You know what the thing is? I actually had never played that game. I never played Luigi's Mansion. I'm sorry to tell you. Oh, Poltergust. The Poltergust. Yeah.
Yeah, you fight ghosts with that, or you get the Ghostbusters backpack. But yeah, intangible, incorporeal ghosts, not much you can really do physically. In terms of, a lot of games, you can usually affect them with magic.
Sure. Yeah.
Or in D&D, you can get, a ghost touch weapon, which could then affect incorporeal creatures.
So, since you brought up D&D, I actually have stats for D&D 5e ghosts. And, and this is the thing that I find really interesting. In damage resistances and immunities, in immunities, they're immune to cold, necrotic, and poison damage, which makes sense. It does.
Yeah.
But
you can't poison undead.
Yeah, you really can't. And also, it doesn't really make sense that they would deal necrotic damage, because that would have to do with flesh, and you can't poison a non-corporeal being. But damage, but for bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage, they only have resistance. So you can still technically damage them with a dagger. They just would take half damage.
Yeah, I mean, I would potentially house rule that if I was putting ghosts in a game, like, prominently.
Yeah.
Or if it was a prominent ghost,
Oh,
perhaps
sure.
it's gonna damage immunities to those things, unless they're magical,
Sure.
or a specific type of item, or ghost touch qualities. But if you're in a game where you're expecting ghosts, these are things you should probably invest in.
Right. I find that the stat block for ghosts is kind of odd, if you really look at it, because, like, their dexterity is not actually very high, which you would think would be kind of strange, because their charisma is the thing that's their highest stat. They have 17 in charisma.
Well, you gotta figure, all of their stuff is about spooking you.
That's true. So intimidation and stuff is where they get their bonuses, yeah.
They've invested in their social skills.
They have. And they are a challenge rating 4. I didn't know that, but apparently that's pretty good. Ethereal sight, so they can see 60 feet into the ethereal plane when they are on the material plane and vice versa, and they have incorporeal movement, so they can move through other creatures and objects, and it takes 5 force damage if it ends up its turn inside an object. So, there you go. Put up giant walls, folks. Wouldn't that... Actually, could I have done that? Ooh, that's a good question. So, if we were in my campaign, or our campaign when we were playing, and Max is there, and there's a bunch of ghosts, if I put down my growth spurt, or whatever, I can't remember what it's called, I make a giant
I put down my growth spurt.
I put down growth? Yes, when I put down plant growth in that 100-foot radius, just sphere, and the ghosts are there, and they can only move 40 feet on a hover. If they keep ending up in my plant growth, do they just keep taking damage?
I would say it has to be a more solid object than, like, you know,
the brambles
and stuff.
My brambles, yeah.
Like a tree, maybe, sure.
Yeah. If I was
like
able
undergrowth?
to... Yeah. No. That, and they can fly, so they could probably figure out a way around this. You know, their attacks are, like, essentially Withering Touches, their melee attack, which hits hard. It's like 17 necrotic damage if it hits. It's, you know, you don't want to be taking these on, but their armor class is only 11. So it's pretty easy to hit.
They can't wear armor, they've got bad decks.
That's true. That's true. I just
You want to make it harder?
Yeah.
You make them small ghosts.
Oh, okay. I can make them tiny ghosts.
Yep. You make them ghost pixies.
Ghost mice! Let's have ghost mice. I want those.
A swarm of ghost mice.
A swarm of ghost mice, yeah.
And they don't roll to attack. They just land in your square and you take like 18 necrotic damage.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That would be great, actually. I'd love to be able to just put, like, a ghost overlay onto, like, swarms of bats and rats.
That's called a template, they used to use them in 3.5 all the time.
You know, if they're gonna be doing all these changes with, like, 1D&D, it would be good to see, like, more templates make a comeback, because I've seen, like, some homebrew stuff with it, but I don't think they went in real hard on it with the 5e rules.
Yeah, there used to be, like, you could do Celestial and Fiendish as templates, and then, like, I had one that was called a Cursed, which was a template, and then Werewolf was a template, for example. It would be nice, it would be a lot easier to modify certain things, like to make a werewolf.
Oh, sure.
That's not just stat block in the book. It's like, this person is a werewolf. Here are his stats as a werewolf.
Yeah.
Templates are fun.
Yeah. I would have also really liked the idea of using that so that you could have other kinds of were-animals, so that, like, I could just turn a badger into a were-badger. Because, let's face it, a badger seems like a horrible idea to make into a were-creature, and I love it. A lycanthropic badger.
Yeah.
But
Anyways,
ghosts. I think that the thing that keeps them from being as spoopy as you might want them to be is that most games, because they have to function as games where you can play it and vanquish a foe, don't really go hard into the idea of ghosts being an intangible creature that you can't actually damage. They have to figure out ways for you to do damage to them. And I think that that is really where they get utilized more for like horror games that are about evasion than anything else, when they're really spooky. For most like RPGs, no.
Yeah, I think they could be, they could stand to be used in a more, typical spooky ghost kind of way, instead of just, this is a ghost you can kill.
Yeah.
Like, maybe have some of those in there, but maybe have this one, like, powerful ghost that is coming after you, like a Scooby-Doo villain.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just like, it's not one you can really deal with, and it's one that, like, terrifies you. Like, give it an effect that will actually terrify your players, or whatever. So, like, in D&D as an example, maybe give it a spell to scare players, or, give it advantage on intimidation.
Yeah.
Or something along that line. And make it so it's harder to damage than would be normal for the game. Maybe you really can't affect it until you find, like, this certain thing that's part of the quest.
Right.
Ghosts have unfinished business, and it doesn't want to go away until you've figured out what this unfinished business is.
Exactly.
Or maybe maybe its gravestone was broken, and you need to fix the gravestone. I don't know, something.
It would be good. Yeah. I'd like it to be like an actual quest, like you're talking about. Like you have to actually get the ghost to move on because you have to complete a task or something like that.
Right.
Not because if you're going to be dealing with an incorporeal being, you're probably going to have to think outside the box on how to defeat them, and not just go swinging a sword or trying to throw a fireball at them.
I would enjoy if there was the quest for the ghost, and it was either you figure out how to make it move on, or the other option is there's this ritual or something that could bring it fully into our world so you can vanquish it. Either or, give the players the option to pursue whichever path, pursue both paths.
Sure.
Maybe they can't finish one of the paths, so they have to do option B.
Sure.
So I think something like that, but then have the ghost, like, either, if they're trying to vanquish it, maybe it's trying to spook them to get them to go away.
Sure.
Maybe it's not physically able to hurt them, but it can knock things over on them. Maybe it pushes a statue over that lands and almost kills the party member.
Yeah.
Affecting the world around them, but not physically, like, attacking them.
Sure, yeah. The other things that I saw in the D&D stat block, at least, they do have a couple special abilities, which are worth noting. One is the Horrifying Visage, which is where if they can see a target, they can possibly frighten them, and it will actually age you by 1d4 plus 10 times 10 years. So there's that. Which
seems excessive.
Well, it can be undone by a greater restoration spell, but I'm thinking, like, they could probably kill you pretty quickly if you're not like an elf. You might be able to die of old age, and then of course there's possession as an ability, where you can actually be taken over. The target gets incapacitated and loses control of their body, and then the ghost controls the body.
See, as much as that is a thing ghosts do in a lot of media, players don't typically like having their character being taken control of.
Yeah. They don't like
so
their player the puppet, yeah.
If you're going to use possession, I would suggest using it on an NPC.
Yeah.
Like someone they have to not kill.
Yes, I would like to not be dead. Or like, I'd like to see that.
Or it has to be done with a story element where it's not monologues, but if you're gonna possess a party member, it should be to deliver a message or to shock and stun them.
Okay.
Because they're a lot less likely generally to kill another party member in most cases.
Sure. The one other thing that I'll say on ghosts before we give spoopy ratings is that there is another part of this, which is when you play the ghosts. And if you play the ghosts, you might find that it is equally frustrating. Because there was a game called Ghostmaster once upon a time, Alex. I don't know if you're aware of this, but it...
Vaguely familiar.
Played it. Have it again, because it was on Steam sale. Some sale. But anyway, the idea was that it was like a strategy game, and there were people that were in this house, and you had to scare them so that they left the house. But of course, you're playing ghosts that don't actually interact directly with the people, so they have to possess different objects and make the objects do things, or possess specific rooms, and those objects had to have specific qualities to them that equated to the ghosts that you were utilizing. So, some of them would be able to possess food items, some of them would be able to possess, an animal or a hunting object of some kind, or an electronic one, and create
I possess
sparks.
a shotgun.
Yeah, the thing about it is that there were occasionally, shotguns on the wall and stuff, and you could possess them, but you couldn't actually shoot the shotguns at people. So, missed opportunity right there.
Yeah, missed shot.
Yeah. And I have to tell you that the idea of not being able to directly interact with people when you're trying to, get them to do something seems equally frustrating as when you're trying to fight the ghost. So, maybe I can see the ghost's point of view here. It's gotta be a really frustrating trip. Spoopy rating. I'm gonna give ghosts, I don't know, I think ghosts are fairly spoopy. I think ghosts are fairly spooky.
I think if they're done well, they're pretty spooky.
I think so. I mean, some of the worst times, especially like in Bloodlines, that was one of my least settling moments in gaming, and that all revolved around a ghost. I'm gonna give them 4 out of 5 spoops. I'm gonna give them 4 out of 5 spoops.
I'm extending ghosts to other spirits that can be incorporeal here as well.
Sure.
So in that case, woodland spirits, not fae, things like that, visages that you would see, generally undead around cemeteries, floating headless horseman style ghost things. I'm gonna give them a solid 5.
Yeah,
if they're done right.
Right.
Because obviously you can do that's just a white sheet on a person.
Yes.
And that's like a 1 until you pull the sheet off and it's actually a horrifying corpse underneath it.
You did a reverse Scooby-Doo. You pull the
Yes.
sheet off and it's oh no, it's Old Man Jenkins. Oh no, it's a ghost!
You pull the sheet off and it's just like a bear.
Old Man Jenkins was a ghost the whole time! No!
But yeah, ghosts are pretty spooky things. I think it's really good when you have a ghost that looks terrifying.
Yes.
If you can describe that, maybe its jaws half hanging off, like the ghosts in Harry Potter,
Yes. Yeah.
They weren't super spooky because it's Harry Potter, but they looked different. Or Nearly Headless Nick, who had...
Oh, yeah. Nearly Headless Nick, yep. Yeah, that works.
So I think if you want to make your ghosts spooky and interesting, give them some kind of visage and look to them that it's interesting and off-putting, perhaps. Sure. Maybe they look like they're decaying at an advanced rate.
Yes. Do not make them look like Casper, because then I'm just gonna want to hang out with Casper. The only scary thing about Casper the Friendly Ghost is the theory that he was actually Richie Rich.
I've not heard that one.
I
don't want to know.
Here's the fun conspiracy theory, Alex. Go and look at the character model for Richie Rich, and then look at the character model for Casper side to side.
Nope. Nope.
Anyway, how spoopy do you think ghosts are? If you have an idea,
Or for those of you playing at home, spooky works too.
spooky works too. Anyway, out of 5, what out of 5 do you think ghosts fall on that radar? You can feel free to join us in Discord if you'd like to for that conversation.
Or you can share a ghost story from a
Yes.
game you've played, either video or tabletop, if you've got one.
Yes, and for that matter, I am curious about tabletop games that actually revolve around, like, ghost stories, because I know they're out there, I just am not familiar with many of them. So, if you know them, I'd be interested.